Today's tea is Yogi Detox. It's good. I like it. Hi everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Novel iDeea. My name is Dea. Today we are going to go over my favorite nonfiction of 2024. I didn't have a lot of really great nonfiction reads in 2024. My reading of nonfiction was down a little bit. I think I ended up at like 33% of my reads were nonfiction, and it's usually at about 40%. And I'm pretty sure that that was partly because of the quality of reads that I was having. So I did come up with a top 10, but I only had 10 on my list. I only had 10 that I enjoyed reading. All 10 of them are on this list, and I just ordered them in order of enjoyment. So let's get into it. The first one, number 10, is The Clue of the Maze, or Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon. So this was the read-along that Tiffany did and that I co-hosted, and Chrissy from Chrissy's Purple Library co-hosted. We had live shows every week to discuss the chapters that we read that week, and it was an absolutely lovely time. It wasn't as impacting for me as Joy in Christ's Presence was, which is the Spurgeon that we did last year, or that, not last year, 2023. Spurgeon's thoughts in the book felt truncated. So I just wanted more every single time. I just wanted more. This one is coming in at number 10 on my favorite. Number 9 favorite nonfiction was the Rigoletto, the story of Rigoletto. Rigoletto is an opera that was written by Giuseppe Verdi, and it was a book that I got from Victoria from A Musical Bookworm. I don't remember if it was for my birthday or if it was for something else, but she sent it to me and I devoured it. It was too much information to take in all in one sitting, but it's a little teeny tiny book. Rigoletto is one of my favorite operas. To find the backstory, who sang it originally, I just really enjoyed it. So many different ways to interpret with your voice how something should sound and how it should be sung. Rigoletto was number 9. All right, next we have The Secret Life of Trees in Pictures. I found this book at my used bookstore, and so let me back up just a second. Secret Life of Trees a couple of years ago was on my top reads of that year, and it's by Peter Wohlleben, and it is wonderful. It is absolutely a delight to read. And I was at my used bookstore in the nature section looking at nonfiction to read, and there was a coffee table book of The Secret Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben. And so I picked it up, and it was, you could say this was a reread, but it was in pictures. And it was wonderful, and I loved it so much, and I am so happy to own it. I am not at home currently, in case you can't tell. That's not mine. I'm puppy sitting. So I couldn't present it to you, but I'll try to put some footage in of the pages and what just It's so beautiful. I love trees. They're just magical to me. And so I was more than happy to, take this home and open it up and revisit one of my favorite books and revisit it this time with pictures added. So beautiful, beautiful book. Number 7 is one with a little bit of a caveat. So it's Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. However, if you have not read God Has a Name, read that first before you read Practicing the Way. He re-released God Has a Name with like an afterword and just kind of talking about some things. And so I reread it, the new one, with that new section. And then I read Practicing the Way. And I love the way that he communicates the truths. I come away just in awe every single time I pick up one of John Mark's books. So very, very happy to have reread God Has a Name. That was probably my favorite of the two. I like the mystical ideas, chasing after truths side of Christian nonfiction more than I like practical application ideas and working toward something. Not that I don't enjoy that, it's just that this touches my heart and my mind so much more. And so God Has a Name is more this realm, and Practicing the Way is more in this realm. So of the two, I probably enjoyed God Has a Name more, but I count it as a reread. So that's the reason it's not on this list, but Practicing the Way was still an absolute joy to read. All right, so number 6 on my list is Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. And I had been hearing about this book since I homeschooled our kids when they were growing up. And it has always eluded me. I was reacquainted with the book while I was listening to a podcast, and I thought, they have reprinted so many of C.S. Lewis's books lately, I bet I could find it. And I did. It is about education, but it's about more than that. I'm just going to read to you the description of what it is, because it's hard for me to put it into words. So I'm just going to read this. It says, Lewis sets out to persuade his audience of the importance and relevance of universal values such as courage and honor in contemporary society. He discusses why we shouldn't always listen to only reason and cut out our emotions. Lewis argues that reason without emotions is not reality. He debunks the arguments that the purest form of reason is instinct, that benevolent actions will be found through pursuing science, and that science will be the best moral compass for mankind to follow. Lewis proves that moral absolutes do exist and that they are universal throughout all of time. I just thought it was fascinating. I immediately wanted to reread it. Had a lot on my plate, so I'm actually planning on rereading it again this year. I really want to absorb more of it, and so I can't wait to reread this book, and that alone tells me it should be on this list. Anything that makes me want to dig deeper is worthy of being a favorite. At number 5, I have Home Has a Heart, and this is by Thyra, Ferre, Bjorn. This was absolutely precious. This is the simplest little book about home and about creating home and what that entails, and that ultimately the place where all of our love resides, that's where home is. It's really old. That was a surprise. I reread the book. I read it once in the spring, and then I was like, this just feels like such a cozy book. I need to reread it at the end of the year. And so I read the section that was specifically about Christmas and winter. And I loved it. I just loved it. It was so, so sweet. Number 4 on my list is Flannery O'Connor's Mystery and Manners. So Mystery and Manners was a little bit of a surprise for me. I knew that I loved Flannery O'Connor's letters and her prayer journals. I really love them a lot. But Mystery and Manners is a collection of essays and lectures, critical articles that she didn't have all of them published in her lifetime. They were like ones that she was getting ready to publish, some of them. And some of them were just in her papers that they found after she passed. She is so bold, and her style of writing is just punchy. She does not hold back. And yet it is simple, and it's easy to understand, and it goes straight to your heart because of her not pulling punches. I just was astounded, basically, by so much of what I read in this little collection. Flannery died at a very young age due to complications from lupus, and she left behind quite a legacy. And we didn't have Flannery O January last year. We didn't have it this year, but I have continued to find things either about or by Flannery to read. She just speaks truth and does it in a way that just pierces right to the heart. Number 3 on my list is one I read in December, and that is Amazing Grace by Eric Metaxas. This is the story of William Wilberforce, and it is about his physical struggle. He was sick for a lot of his life. Also, his struggle to eliminate slavery in every aspect in the UK. He became a member of the House of Parliament at a young age, and he fought with tenacity. He was relentless to see slavery be abolished. And I just really enjoyed Metaxas's way of telling a story, and yet keeping it focused and not veering off in all directions or running off with another character. We got to hear some backstories about some other characters, but it was always in light of what Wilberforce was doing and what he was aiming for. It was so good. And I read it fast. It's not a little book, and I read it fast. Number 2 on my list is The House of Dudley by Joanne Paul. And I read this during Victober, which is funny because it's not a Victorian family that we are reading about. House of Dudley is about a conniving, bloody family, mainly during the Tudor times. The Dudleys kind of came into power at the same time as Henry VII. They continued during Henry VIII and then Edward VI, even during his reign. And they crushed a lot of people beneath their feet. And yet, the way that Joanne Paul wrote this made you kind of take a step back and look at, instead of looking at them as one whole, looking at them as individuals. I thought it was well researched, it's beautifully written, it taught me things I didn't know anything about. It's a history of Tudor England from a different perspective than I was used to reading. And I really, really enjoyed it. And then lastly, number 1 on my list is Stillmeadow from Sugarbridge. I think that's the right title. Stillmeadow from Sugarbridge. Maybe it's To Stillmeadow from Sugarbridge. It is by Gladys Tabor and Barbara Webster, who are 2 best friends, and they write to one another about the most simple and beautiful and mundane things. And they are funny, and they are endearing, absolutely charming, such a sense of family and sweetness of life, being grateful and grabbing a hold of these moments in time that you just want to hold on to, that you just want to remember. And I loved it. So it's written in letters back and forth, but they're grouped into spring, summer, winter, fall. And so in the spring, I read the spring letters, and in the summer, I read the summer letters, and in the fall, I read the fall letters. So it was so wonderful, and I looked forward to it every single month. I wanted to make sure that it was like the first thing that I read out of all of my reads in the month. And I just wasn't disappointed with any of them. I just thought they were so wonderful. This beautiful friendship between not just Gladys and Barbara, but between their families. Like their whole families wanted to be together. And so they made, trips to each other's homes, and there were times when those trips had to be canceled, and the deep, deep longing and disappointment as a friend to, just be together. It was just lovely. It was so lovely. And like I said, because it was something that I just hungered to get to every single month, I wanted to be with these ladies, hearing their new stories for the seasons. So definitely my favorite nonfiction of the year. And I cannot wait to read more Gladys Tabor. There you go, you guys. I would love to know if you read some good nonfiction this year and what it was. Because like I said, 33% of my reading was nonfiction, and yet I only had 10 that I wanted to talk about. Out of, 252 books, 33% of that was nonfiction. And 10 Anyway, okay, so just tell me, talk to me down below. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for sitting here listening to me. And I hope that maybe you found something that I talked about that you want to read too. And I'll see you again very soon with another video. Bye, everyone.